cabinet here, and I've got 2 lights. I just cannot figure it out.
So like you can never get like. I mean, I'm not exactly killing it over here. Like it's.
I know you're glowing. Personally, you're glowing. Like you look like you've been close to a lot of irradiated material.
It looks like it's like Barbie pink skin color.
Yes. Well, it's that's talking about radiation, Barbie. Next week, both of them coming out. Are you excited? Are you excited?
I am so excited, honestly, for both of those. Mm-hmm. I mean, we talked about before how we definitely think they're in the same universe that we think. Mm-hmm. We're saying them. We haven't really.
The Barbenheimer verse.
The Barbenheimer weekend is coming.
Yeah. Barbenheimer is upon us. I want to, we have another game we're going to play later, but I want to do something. I'm going to put this on record on them because it's going to be recorded. Do you think that Barbie will out-earn Oppenheimer? Not first weekend.
Total. Yeah. Oh, no.
By how much?
You're frozen.
No.
By how much? Okay, you're back. I mean, now you're back. Now you're good. You were frozen. Okay. By how much? I don't even know because I'm really terrible at like box office totals. I don't know. Like $1 billion,
it's okay.
$200. I don't know. Somewhere in there.
So, like Into the Spider-Verse, for instance, made like $350 million opening weekend.
Okay.
So, which maybe more, but like if that's an estimate across the Spider-Verse, I should say.
Okay.
So, like if that's your baseline, $350 million.
350. I don't think it's going to outperform Spider-Verse, but I think it's going to outperform Oppenheimer a lot because I do think also Oppenheimer is a bummer.
Yeah,
and it's coming out in the middle of the summer, so like. It's not like people are going to just be flocking in droves to go get depressed.
You don't think that they're like that Christopher Nolan is making this movie to be like, you think it's hot outside? What if your skin was falling off? Yeah, what if your skin was literally falling off?
Oppenheimer, the musical? It's a bomb.
Oh man, I that wasn't even the cold open that I wanted to start with. I had a whole thing. But it is the one that I deserve. I was going to talk about how we have wait, hold on.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Welcome in to Fandom Social episode 4.
Yeah.
Where we are talking social horror part 1 through the lens of Alfred Hitchcock. Thank you all for being here. I am Paul. This is Autumn. We are turn of the century hosts who are, we watch, listen, read extraordinary things, and we hope to talk about it with all of you. So welcome in, everyone. Happy Sunday. So, okay, can I get back to my original cold open? But there's a reason to. I'm going to tie it into a point of relevance to our show. We have a show now, which was a week out. We got a lot of research and reading and work done in a week. I'm pretty proud of us.
Yeah.
I wasn't even convinced I could read. I just memorized a lot of words. But we have a show on the 30th. So we're going to be taking a couple of weeks off for a couple of reasons. One, we're both going to be gone. We're I'm going to Hawaii as of next Thursday. I'll be gone from the 13th to another amount of time. But what I was going to say, my cold open was I was reading. I was like so excited. I haven't thought about Hawaii. I've been packing. I've just been working for the show. I started going into like all the places that I'm really excited to like go to.
Yeah.
And I wish there could have been like a quick cut of me reading, just all like happy. And it's like that. Like my first reading was like Barbie, and then immediate cut to me just reading the very next topic. It's like the exploitation of the Hawaiian land and the people that led and continues to destroy their culture. I was like, am I part of the problem?
You sure are.
I'm very ready for this dichotomy of
this is gonna be exciting.
Oppenheimer. Yeah, I'm excited. And where are you going? Are you going anywhere interesting?
I am. So while you're in Hawaii oppressing people, I will just be here working because the following week, the reason why we can't do our show the following Sunday is because I am going to San Diego Comic-Con. And I am so excited. I'm going all 5 days. I'm going on a research trip for work. Slytherin powers activate.
Boy, that sounds familiar.
Yep. So I'm going to be there for the entire time. I'm going to be checking out everything inside and out all over Comic-Con and the surrounding area just to check out everything that's going on. I'm super excited. I have not missed a con. I want to say this is my 10th year. Yeah, I want to say it's my 10th year. Yeah. I mean, I know those people have been gone like way longer than that, but it's something close to that. So I'm super excited. The question Amy asked, hold on. Amy said, will you live stream via TikTok, or I think that's TikTok, for San Diego? Potentially. I mean, I'm happy to go live from San Diego Comic-Con and just show you guys some cool stuff, but it's all going to be depending on, we don't have like the weight of former employers' Wi-Fi to back us up. So probably not, because the Wi-Fi at San Diego Comic-Con is notoriously crowded. So it's pretty hard to actually go live. But I'll definitely take pictures. I'll definitely take some video and post them. And if it allows me to go live, I totally will. So I'm excited. I also want to bring a callback that I told Paul about, is my Facebook memories from, I don't know, 7-8 years ago. And I told someone that I was going to San Diego Comic-Con, and they asked what Comic-Con is. And what I had written on Facebook was like, if you don't know, I'm just going to sound really lame trying to explain it. Like, you either know and you're like, oh, that's really cool, or you don't know, and there's no words I'm going to say that's going to make it sound cool. So let's just stop.
What was the age? Who were you explaining this to? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was at like a networking event, like local Santa Clarita. Like, they were probably a realtor, I want to say. You're like, what is Comic-Con? What's a Comic-Con? Like, you don't want to talk to me anymore, I promise. Like, you can just move along to someone else.
It'll make your life so much better. But so that in turn to say, everyone, our next show is July 30th. So a couple weeks out, that's where we will host part 2 of Social Horror, where we're discussing Jordan Peele. All right, so let's get into sort of what's going to be going on during the show. We're going to talk about the Explorathon in a second. I hope you guys all did your homework, because we really didn't.
We did a lot of it.
We did most of it.
Yeah, I would say a solid B effort. Like B minus. A B.
I'll settle for a C, because I barely touched that book, but we'll get into it. And then we do have a new game that I'm going to try to...
Oh no, you froze again. This is going to be an issue. This is going to be a thing. If the new game is how long can you stay frozen, you're winning.
Am I winning now?
Oh, you're back now. You're back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. My Wi-Fi's been terrible lately.
Yeah.
Apparently AT&T is not so great all the time.
And we're shut down.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, no, there goes our one sponsor.
Yeah.
Them and Fabletics. So we'll go over the Explorathon. We have a new game that I'm pretty excited for.
This is all new to me, the game.
I barely even explained the rules to Autumn, and I have to make sure that she doesn't cheat. So, because Autumn,
I can, I will.
Yep, you cheat to win.
It's
and then, of course,
using all available resources. That's what I call it.
That's what it is. You're not cheating. You're not trying to win. And then we will, of course, headline this show with our discussion on Alfred Hitchcock, Social Horror, Part 1. I'm so excited to talk about it. Me and Autumn are very excited to just get this out of our brains into your brains and talk about it.
Yeah.
So let's get into the Explorathon.
Okay.
Okay, Autumn, which do we want to talk about first? We had our watch, read, listen, and to remind everyone, our watch segment was Throw Mama from the Train with Billy Crystal and Danny DeVito. Then Strangers on a Train, of course, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. Our read was Our House by Louis Candlish, and our listen was Alfred Hitchcock Presents Music to be Murdered by.
I think we should save that for last, because it was delightful.
It was amazing. I realized I am a few years from turning into Alfred Hitchcock. I'm getting close.
Let's start with Read, because I think that's going to be the shortest one, to be honest. So Our House by Louise Candlish. I am reading that right now, and I have to tell you, I'm not finished. I'm probably only about a third of the way through. It just wasn't enough time during the week to watch all the things we had to watch and read this. The reason I chose it was because it was on a list of books basically that were inspired by or in the same theme of the Alfred Hitchcock, like suspense and like, you know, plot twists and all of that. So far, I'm really, really liking it a lot. And I decided that I'm just going to keep reading it and we can talk about it some more in the Facebook group, which is Fandom Socialites, if you're not there already. But I'll talk about it more after I finish the book there. But is anybody here in the chats actually reading the book or listening to the audiobook? It is available on Audible. So is there anybody? I'm curious if I'm the only one reading the book. But so far, it's great. This woman comes home. She comes home from a work trip, and people are moving into her house, and her husband and her husband and kids are not there, and they're saying, "No, we bought this house. We bought it yesterday. All your stuff got moved out, and you know, she showed the paperwork that her signature is on, that her husband and herself have sold that house, and it's not just her house. It's like her whole identity. It's like me and Star Wars. It's like her whole, it's like who she is. She bought this house in this one market when it was really inexpensive and everybody in the neighborhood had lived there for a long time. And it's like the pride and joy. She's been fixing it up. And it's like her whole, it's who she is as a person, this house. And she loves it with a passion. Like she loves her house. And
it's like vegans.
Exactly. And people who run marathons. So she is distraught. Her husband has disappeared. She does find out her kids were at her husband's, like their husband had dropped kids off at his mom's house. So the kids are safe, but he's gone. And the house he made off with, I want to say because they bought it inexpensive and then the market went up and it's a suburb of London. He took off with somewhere close to $2 million. And
damn, that's a lot of dollars.
And so you think, oh, this is just a straight case of like, that's a jerky thing for someone to have done, but you're kind of keep finding out more things, and it's being told in an interesting way. Some of it starts off with her just narrating it, and then she goes on a podcast for true crime victims, where victims are interviewed in this podcast. So you're watching episodes of the podcast, and then it's you see his point of view. He has a Word doc. It just says Word doc, and he's like, he was writing her a letter, but now he's like getting his thoughts out. So it's like part her narrating, part her on a podcast, and part his. You're seeing, and the story's unfolding at the same time through those three things. So it's an interesting way to tell the story. Yeah. So it's worth it. Like I said, I'm excited.
Okay. Well, for anyone again who is wanting to read it, this is Our House by Louise Candlish. Again, available, you said, on Audible, probably anywhere you can get audiobooks. You can buy it paperback by your local shop if you can. Okay, yeah. I mean, it sounds good. It kind of reminds me, because I've been deep in Hitchcock lore. It kind of sounds like the Lady Vanishes. It's just like this girl who goes on a train and no one remembers. She's like a train person. Like she's transient. That's not right. I'm not using that term right.
Transient.
She's oh, stop. That's enough. It's too early. And so we have so she goes on these trains, and it's like her life. Like she has a lifestyle of train, friends and everything. And then she goes on one day, and she's trying to remember everything that's ever happened and sort of talk about her life with everyone, and no one remembers her. And she starts going crazy. And like it's like a story about like Alfred Hitchcock may have invented gaslighting.
Oh my gosh. Which, you only think he did because you're tired. You always get this right.
What do you mean? Right. Oh, so again, for anyone who wants to read that book and also go a little stir crazy, it is Our House by Louise Candlish. Okay, let's move over to watch. Okay. Yes. So again, for watch, we were tasked with throw Mama from the Train with these two goofballs, and of course the original Hitch film, Strangers on the Train. So, and it was interesting. It wasn't like it was Throw Mama's. Yeah, I did. Sorry, I did watch them both. Yeah, okay. Did you watch them both? Yeah. I didn't finish Throw Mama from the Train. Okay, that's a shame because it just got worse. So yeah, I know. Strangers on a Train. Actually, so Throw Mama from a Train was not a remake of Strangers on a Train. It was inspired by and referenced in Throw Mama from a Train. And I want to talk about Strangers on a Train first. Okay.
Because
That's perfect because I have a really sad anecdote about it.
okay.
Whenever you're ready. But I promise it's
Can't
relevant.
wait to hear the sadness.
No, it's relevant because
Okay.
it perfectly personifies how much of a real kick in the shins Alfred Hitchcock was to everyone around him.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
in that story, there is Robert Walker who plays the character. Oh, geez, I forget his name. Bruno Antony.
Bruno. Yeah, yeah.
So Robert Walker was a sort of pseudo-typed, pseudo like James Dean. That is the era. That's the type of person that he was, and he had a pretty promising career. He started in a movie called The Barretts of Wimpole, where he married a woman named Phyllis Isley. Now, Phyllis Isley and them both like skyrocketed after that first movie.
Okay.
So once that happens, David O. Selznick, who, if you guys have done,
like, huge producer,
right? Down with the Wind, of course, being the biggest one. He's a real pain in the ass. Like, he is equally as much of a PETA as Alfred Hitchcock. He starts becoming engaged and starts having an affair with Robert Walker, the guy who plays Bruno, with his wife. So she leaves him for David O. Selznick, and he goes a little crazy. He starts drinking a lot, but then he starts picking up smaller bits. So then Robert Walker, the guy who plays Bruno again for everyone out there, he marries a pretty prominent daughter of a famous producer by the name of Barbara Ford. Michael Ford was the name of the producer at the time. Okay. So they had met for like 2 weeks, and then they got married, and then their marriage was over in 3 months. Oh. So the week that he got divorced from her, David O. Selznick and Phyllis, the first wife, got married. So Robert Walker spiraled. He started drinking. He started becoming obscene. He started like fighting flight attendants, kicking dogs, whatever terrible things he could do. Like he was just like a real. He was having a. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, or having himself a Shia moment.
Yeah, you know? Was it Alec Baldwin? Like a few of them have had some.
Yeah, but Baldwin's had a career of being a real curmudgeon. So he goes into this spiral, and he's actually committed to what they called an insane asylum at the time. And he's there for a year and a half because he was trying to hurt himself. He was drinking a lot, and his pretty much all of that goes until about 1939. 2 weeks later, Alfred Hitchcock removes the previous, I don't remember the name of him, but there was someone else cast for Bruno Antony. He fires that dude and hires Robert Walker because
he knows he's a mess.
He knows that he is a mess, and he knows that his life is in shambles, and it plays. He is so
my God.
Good. And
he's so unhinged on that. He is so unhinged.
First 15 to 20 minutes were the first things filmed. Bruno Antony had been out of the insane asylum for just 3 weeks.
Oh my God.
Isn't That's so
amazing.
Interesting? Like,
wow.
And he fired someone, took the hit on the contract, and just hired this dude because he's like, you want crazy? I'll give you crazy. Yeah. So that was my real contribution to this.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I think, okay, so the Strangers on the Train, it opens, right, with them meeting on the train, and you find out, like, you figure out within the first 15 minutes, like, oh, this is not strangers at all. Bruno planned this. He figured out when that guy was going to be taking the train so he could take the same train, because he had the plan in the first place to find a whole way of murdering. You guys, there's going to be spoilers all over the place. He wanted his father murdered. Spoilers. So he found somebody who he thought also could use a good murder in their life, and then orchestrated this whole manipulation to make it seem like this crisscross, as Danny DeVito called it in Throw Mama from a Train. And it was, he got this guy cornered. I mean, we were watching it, and I was watching it with Mel, and she was like, why doesn't that guy just go to the police and say, hey, this is what happened. This guy came up to me on the train, and he said this, this, and this. And like, just say what happened. Go get help. And I thought, yeah, the other guy is very, very wealthy, and he comes from a father who's very wealthy. So like, I don't know that would have worked. And so he basically corners that guy into a position where he's going to have to do something. He's either going to
swap,
or he's either going to murder someone or go to jail for murdering someone, which is fascinating. Like, what a great plot to have put together, where you put a character in place where they're either going to go to prison for murder or they're going to murder. Which one would you like to do? Would you like to be a murderer or just go to prison for being a murderer? And like,
real Sophie's choice,
right? So it was so great. And then Throw Mama from a Train, I had seen originally when it came out back in the 80s.
That's right, you had.
And some great people that I really like putting some, and it had a lot of potential to do some crazy stuff. Like, I wanted to see Billy Crystal get so unhinged by Owen's, I forget the actor's name, but by Danny DeVito's character's actions, that he did turn into a murderer. Like, I wanted to see him like go dark and like try to kill Owen, whether he actually killed him or not, but like it just literally made him go nuts, and he actually does kill. Like, that would have been darker. It would have been like, they kind of had some of those movies in the time that went a little dark, but they didn't. There's another movie that came out somewhere near the same time, Death Becomes Her, where they ended up ending it on a light note, but the original ending was much darker and just super. So I've heard a lot of stories about that. Was an era where there's a lot of dark movies that got a makeover to be a little more lighthearted and a little more fun, to their own detriment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we will go into the inverse of that with Hitchcock when we go towards the end, where he just didn't care what was happening around him. I'm just going to make my movies. But I'm curious if for everyone did everyone watch the films? What did you think? Let us know.
Yeah.
Ooh, yes. Hey, Backpack Jack is here.
Yeah.
Hey, Jack. And Walker, who I was talking about, Robert Walker,
he
died very soon after the filming of that movie. He
that's terrible.
I guess he took some medication that didn't agree with him, and he was drinking. So then they came and gave him more medication when the ambulance called, and it just stopped his heart. So he died like immediately. What a weird, like, he had a very violent life.
Yeah. Okay, wait, Andrew Wishborn. I'm going to go down this tangent really quick. Death Becomes Her is a great movie. For those of you guys who have not seen Death Becomes Her, it was Bruce Willis and Goldie Hawn and Meryl Streep. And it's a comedy. And he's a plastic surgeon, but there are these rich socialite, one's a wife and I don't remember. One's a girlfriend and one's the ex-wife or something like that. And he can there's some voodoo-y magic-y thing happening where they actually don't age. And he's doing all these different things to them. And it means they actually, not only do they not age, they can't die. So it's Death Becomes Her, meaning like they're trying to kill each other, these two women, because they're very competitive and they hate each other, and they're trying to murder each other. And they can't die.
That kind of sounds like the plot of one of the movies of the director we'll be talking about next time.
Oh, interesting.
Now that you're saying that.
Yeah, the two women are frenemies. Okay, so it ends one way, and like it's meant to be a comedy. It's like his funeral, and he's the only one that can keep them preserved, and he dies, and so now they're just like falling apart, in literally like pieces of them falling off, and it's a whole funny dark thing. But I found out that the original ending was supposed to be that whatever it was worked, and they literally never age or die, and it cuts to them years in the future, decades in the future, and all they have are each other, and they're perfect. They look perfect and beautiful and young, and they're miserable. That's their hell. That's their punishment, is that they got what they wanted. And I'm like, that's amazing. Everyone they've ever known and loved is long since dead, and they're just alone and beautiful and perfect. Yeah.
Justin Racklin says Death Becomes Her is a messed up movie. I saw it at too young of an age to get the humor at the time. Yeah, I could see how that movie can mess you up.
Yeah. Anyway, we got another tangent.
Too much Bruce Willis will do that in general.
The only reason I brought it up is because it just reminded me with Throw Mama from the Train, where it had the potential to go in this really dark way, and then they kind of steered out of the skid real fast and changed directions. And to me, it screamed like 1980s Hollywood ending. So it was interesting.
Right.
I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but that's how it felt. I did not like their moment. It was fine, but
it would make sense as to why that happened. I mean, the 80s and the early 90s were really the
like
prominent rise, or like the re-prominence and re-rise of these like studios and their influence
big
and like
blockbusters.
right?
Yeah.
So it would make sense that a lot of these indie films themselves could be made in the ways that like, maybe they could have been.
Yeah. So what did you think?
And so I thought Throw Mama from the Train dropped my interest. Like I was just like, I don't have. It's weird. I'm super tuned in to Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
I think he's just an icon. But I was born at a time when like Billy Crystal was like the guy that sometimes hosted the Oscars.
Yeah, yeah.
So like I understand his relevance, but like I didn't watch that film and be like, oh my God, like I'm excited to see Billy Crystal do his thing. I was like, okay, it's a movie that Danny DeVito's kind of in. But after watching Strangers from the Train, it was just too much of a shift in tone for me.
It was such a huge shift.
I would have probably rather watched Throw Mama from the Train. If you're gonna do a double feature, Throw Mama from the Train and then Strangers on a Train after.
Yeah, yeah. I can tell you what I'm going to tell you the ending of Throw Mama from the Train and how they could have, because you're not going to go back.
Spoilers, everyone.
It's stupid. Spoilers.
No, I'm not.
At the very end, he ends up, no one kills anyone, and he's back in his apartment, and finally his writer's streak is broken. I mean, his writer's block is broken. He starts writing about what they did. He starts writing about what happened. And it shows to like a year later, and he's finishing his novel. And it's like, it's the story of what him and Owen did and their whole, like, all their adventures, right? Turns out the wife never actually did get pushed off. She just fell off and she was rescued and she's fine. So like no one died. No one killed anyone. And Owen was just pretending that he had killed the wife because he wanted someone to kill his mama, but then she didn't actually do it. So anyway, he writes the whole novel and he's finally happy. He is emotionally fulfilled because he has finally broken his writer's block. The first book was stolen from him, but now he's got his new book. And Owen comes over to visit him. And he was like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. How have you been? He's like, Owen says, great news. I wrote a book. It's all about you and me and my mom and the last year that we had together. And he's like, and I already got it published and I came by to show it to you. And he's like, what? And I'm like, that would have been amazing if he then either killed or tried to kill. And he does. He loses it and starts to like strangle Owen. And he's like, lost it. He's going to murder him. And I'm like, what a great ending that Owen writes this best-selling novel and gets it published before he can, when he finally breaks his writer's streak. But no, it turns out Owen made a pop-up book for kids. And he changed the whole part about murder to a fun picnic. So it's just called Owen and Mama and Owen's friend Larry. It's like,
oh, that sounds terrible.
It is. And it's really, really terrible. So like, but how much more fun would it have been had Owen then gone on to become a bestseller? And like, once again, Larry has gotten his work stolen. So they walked away from the darkness.
I would watch the second movie, but
so
what are you gonna
100%.
do? I mean, well, let us know, everyone, how you liked it. Again, that was the watch segment. Yeah. But now we're getting into the listen segment of Explorathon, which is something that I think I enjoyed a lot more than I thought. Did you listen to it again? Like, have you listened to it a couple times now?
I listened to the whole thing, and then I also listened to the Eminem to see if he had pulled anything else other than artwork and a couple of things from it, and he didn't. Go ahead.
So we are discussing, we should probably tell them what we're talking about, is Alfred Hitchcock presents Music to be Murdered.
To be murdered by.
Murdered.
Murdered.
So, what did you think? Okay, because obviously you like it now. Like, what did you think the first time through?
When I was first listening to it, I was just like, okay, this is cute. This is cute. And like, I wasn't really focusing on it. I had it on while I was doing other things. And so I was like, okay, I get it. And I like the fact that he had an intro for every single piece. It wasn't like he had an intro at the beginning, at the end, and the rest.
Right.
Then I went back and listened to it again, where I was just listening. I wasn't doing anything else. And I noticed, I don't know if you picked up on this, but a lot of the music, like he would talk and then would go into the music. And a lot of the music were like skewed versions of standards. Like Moon River, but not quite Moon River.
Oh,
and like, you know what I mean? Like if you listen to there's different actual famous songs that it sounded very much like, but not quite. Like not enough to get a copyright strike, but just enough to make you feel
Okay,
like,
that's
oh, this is
interesting.
romantic, but it's not actually. It's
But evil.
diabolical. Yeah. And so it was really interesting that there were, I don't know if it was on purpose, but I just kept hearing little notes of existing songs that were classic love song standards or like celebration standards that were now like dark and twisty. And then plus this, yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting. Moon River was the one that stood out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we have Lorculus who said, who is quoting one of the Alfred Hitchcock intros, which there are a lot of them. This one is, if you find yourself in a shallow grave and need something to pass the time. So like he would intro it and then the music would start playing.
Fun.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. I thought the music was great.
Yeah.
I did like find myself like legitimately laughing at the humor. It is obviously 1958. It's still British humor. And what I found to be the most interesting was that, so this was released in 1958.
Yeah.
Like just the fact that he was referencing like, you know, oh, we share so much admiration for the victims, but no one ever thinks about the poor murderer. He's got to listen to the knife stabbings and like, and it's just this like real whimsical, macabre nature that he had that was far ahead of its time. Like that album would be, I think, you know, taken now with a lot of reciprocation, but at the time it was just so good. The music was great in and of itself as well. Like it was, like you said, it was beautiful and it was very leading. Like I didn't find like the music doesn't really transition from one to another. Like it's not like like the previous song doesn't really work with the next song, but I think Alfred Hitchcock presenting this breaks that up into the new track. And this was, you know, it makes sense as to why he released it. Like this was in the period where he was doing the Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
He was a couple years into this.
It was. I really loved, especially like little comments about how he can resonate with it because it's like he said, oh, it's perfect to be on a record album because it's 33 and a third. And then 45 and 78, my measurements.
His measurements. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that.
Funny. So funny.
One of the end tracks, I think, has one of my favorite intros where he's talking about, he's like, this song is the only one on the record that is dedicated to like Miss Rose Walker, who really likes this song. But if her husband's listening to this, you can enjoy this while you wait for the coroner.
Yes, she may not be around to the end of the song, basically. And then another one was when the first track off of the flip side, he said something about it being. He made a comment that basically. What was it? What did he say?
The needle hit my B side.
Yeah, hit my B side. I was walking straight for a week. Here's the needle just hitting my B side.
He was just like, he's like a goth icon, honestly. He's just way ahead of his time.
Yeah.
I would have loved, I was on Threads and I was going through like things Alfred Hitchcock would love and hate. Yeah. And I was like, he would like hate Wonder Woman, Shazam. Like he would hate but he would love 500 Days of Summer. Like he loved Alfred Hitchcock. I feel invented the manic pixie dream girl.
Yeah, 100%.
That was his bag.
Whole vibe. Yeah.
And I feel like he would have loved the Eminem tribute album. Also.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have understood word because he was a slow speaker, so I don't think he could comprehend Eminem speaking that fast. But he would love it.
One of my favorite Eminem with the lyrics. I listened to most of the album, not all of it. But one of my favorite little lines, because you know how he can play with words like no one else, Eminem. Mm-hmm. He said, "I'm gonna come after you like the letter V."
Okay.
He said before that, he said, "The only way to get ahead of me is in the alphabet, because I'm gonna come after you like the letter V." I was like,
my God.
Okay.
I was like, I think I like rap music now.
I do. Do I like rapsters now? No, I don't. I had a hot take. I had a hot take.
God. Oh, no.
You're gonna hate it. No one who hears this is gonna agree with me and think I'm saying something great. But the way that I do really enjoy Eminem's music. I love him as a writer, like the way he writes lyrics. And I said, you know who he reminds me of in the way he plays with words and flips them around? You know who I'm gonna say. Taylor Swift. I swear to God. I am not even joking. If you listen to Taylor Swift's lyrics, she flips and plays around with words. I know. She flips and plays around with language in the same way that he does. And like, I know that people will not probably stop to, like, if you're not a Taylor Swift fan, you're not going to stop to actually listen to the lyrics. But when you do, that's one of the reasons why I've been so drawn into her so quickly, is because when I read the lyrics, listen to the lyrics, she does that same thing where she flips and plays around with words in really interesting ways.
I mean, you are right, though. Without Taylor Swift, there would be no Eminem. So,
true.
It makes a lot of sense. So I will never
that's my hot take
for saying that ever, and I'm glad you said it to everyone.
Yeah, I stand by it.
To this crowd of people.
Yeah, I think to me, in my mind, lyrically, they're both poets, like at the top of the game.
It's the lightest thing you've ever said.
And there's a lot of competition for that statement.
Yeah, that's true. The show is young, so.
Okay, let's go.
All right. Well, so that was our.
Everyone, wait! Come back! I'm done. I'm sorry. I'm done.
Don't worry, everyone. Autumn's done talking about rap music now. So. Jeez. Oh, I'm very.
They're
upset.
Basically the same. Anyway, go ahead.
The people encouraging you and saying, "No, I understand the parallels." I'm upset at you. Do not encourage her. Oh yeah, but in your defense, it makes sense because you do listen to a lot of Taylor Swift. So like, there is that immediate.
I'm a big fan of singer-songwriters, and both of them are singer-songwriters. Yeah, both of them
like
are.
Eminem.
Yeah, exactly. They're both exactly the same. They're both singer-songwriters. Anyway.
Yeah. You did shoehorn in a Swift reference, but okay. So our next Explorathon picks, these are your book reports that will be due again by July 30th on our next show. Mm-hmm. These are fun. I'm really excited. We're changing this up a little bit, not too much. It is still themed after the topic of our next episode, which is Jordan Peele. So, Autumn, do you want to talk through a few of them?
Sure.
Do you want to go first?
We decided to mix it up a little bit, and instead of it being a movie, a book, and an album, we are going to do some episodes of TV. We're going to do an article and a podcast. So that's going to be our watch, read, listen. So you want to start us off with the watch? What are we watching?
Yes. So our watch segment is season 1 of Key and Peele. So we really, really want everyone to sort of watch this, just season 1. I mean, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
you're grown.
We'll talk about season 1.
But we'll only be discussing season 1 because obviously, again, we're talking about more of the social dynamic that is more prevalent in Peele these days. But I think it's super important to see this side of him as well.
Yeah.
Because just like with Alfred Hitchcock, like, so much of him is put into his work, and I think this will be really interesting because this was, I think, 2013, which was 5 years before.
I've never seen the whole show, just skits here and there. So I'm excited.
Me neither.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if anyone out there, if you are huge Key and Peele fans, is it the first time you've ever seen it? I don't think I've ever sat down and watched like a 25-minute episode of Key and Peele.
And I just dropped, I haven't ever watched a whole episode. I just dropped a link to the IMDb to like describe what you guys are looking at. But that's going to be our homework. And you have all the way until the 30th. It's 3 Sundays from now.
Yeah, and I think season 1's probably like 19 or 20 episodes. I believe you can watch it on a few places. I think seasons 1 through 5 are on Hulu. Seasons 1 through 3 are on HBO Max, and there's probably a ton of it on Paramount. So, ton of places to watch it. So that is our watch segment.
What's our read segment, Paul?
I'm so excited. So
it's kind of themed because of Nope.
Oh, was that redacted? Is that what it is?
No, I'm saying the film Nope. This is kind of themed.
Losing our edge, Autumn. Losing our edge here. This is in reference to the film Nope. Again, one of the films we will be reviewing and studying for our Jordan Peele segment. So this is the image Autumn chose, which tells you nothing about what the hell we're going to be reading.
That is irrefutable evidence of UFOs, clearly.
I know what I saw.
Or
that's me and to my poor neighbors and plants. But what we will be reading is the an article by NPR called "The Pentagon Got Hundreds of New Reports," and essentially it's the NPR article about what the government released to us, and it'll make sense as to why we're reading that when we go in the note, because it did play into the film in small bits, but. The reason I chose that specific article is because if you really just want to ruin your day like I did, you can read the official Pentagon report that they put out. All 25 or 27 pages.
You're going to do it. I know you are. You're going to read on the plane.
I've already read it. I read this like a year ago.
You're such a dude. Okay.
I have thoughts and feelings about it, but
I'm sure
I'd be really, I'd be really curious for everyone to watch it. Again, it is the declassified report on the aerial phenomena. They're not UFOs.
Okay.
They're UAPs, everyone, please. Okay, that is our read. Now, our listen segment, we're actually doing a podcast. Again, this is a podcast that is with Jordan Peele. He goes on to the show. So this is a picture of Jordan Peele, but he goes on to the show called Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard, who, you guys all know from Scrubs. He's, super, super famous. And is it him?
Scrubs? He was
not
not
Scrubs?
Scrubs. No.
Who am I thinking of?
You're thinking of what's his face?
Dax Shepard?
Yeah. Dax Shepard is married to Kristen Bell, and that's what he's most famous for.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking of Zach Braff.
Yeah, Jack Braff is on that. Yeah. I put the link in the chats for the actual episode on the podcast that you're going to listen to. So,
in my defense, they look very similar.
Yes.
They do look very similar.
They have a very similar vibe too, so we're good. Yeah, we're good. So so that's going to be our watch, read, listen for 3 weeks from tonight. So that's going to be our next.
Plenty of time, everyone.
5.
Wow, we're doing it. Episode 5.
Yeah, it's going to be our 5-episode anniversary. Are you getting me something special?
No.
No. It's 27 hours of programming.
I'm aiming for. I'm going to get us both a 5-episode anniversary gift. I'm hoping for syndication. So that's what I'm going for. We will. So head over to the Facebook group, Fandom Socialites. And that's where we do sort of our talking fandom episode. That's like after this episode, we drop in what our watch, read, listens are. You guys can continue the conversation there.
That fun stuff.
All right.
Okay.
So with that, can we play?
Ready.
Can we play my game really quick?
I'm ready. I don't know what it is, but let's play it.
I don't have a name for it, so we're going to need everyone's help naming this game. So this one, we are for the people. Much like, I think he's for the children, but much like Wu-Tang Clan, we are for the people. Autumn knows. She knows rap. She just talked about rap right now.
I listen to it constantly.
So this is tentatively called Guess Who Pictionary Jumble 'em Up.
Rolls off the tongue.
An amalgamation of those. It sounds like I fell asleep after drinking and my head hit the keyboard. That's what it sounds like. It just happened. Okay. So how this game is going to work is, Autumn, I need you to go to the private chat. Okay. You're not allowed to look at the comments, which I know is going to drive you insane.
Okay.
So what's...
Oh, no, you're frozen. Paul, I can't play the game. You're frozen. Okay, this is when you're frozen. You went, what? Did I win?
Am I back?
Yes.
Am I good? All right. So I'm going to put up 2 seemingly different pictures that have nothing to do with each other. And
Okay.
Autumn, you have to guess the celebrity that those two pictures represent.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Some of them are a softball, I feel. Not going to put up a picture of a softball, but maybe. Some of them I think are a
Some of
little
the
bit
celebrities
easier.
are a softball. Okay.
They are.
Okay.
So some of them are a little bit easier, and it's not going to be like a one-to-one. The image is not going to represent the name, but they will make sense.
Together in the context of the two of them should give me the.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Autumn, I'm going to put a word. Let's see your hands.
I've taken the live comments off of the screen, so I can't see them.
What code word did I just put in our private chat?
Blueberry.
Okay, so we know Autumn's in the private chat, everyone.
Okay.
I don't trust her. I've known her for a decade.
You never trust me.
All right.
Okay, here's my hand. Yes.
All right. So here is your first image. Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your second image. First image. Second image.
Is this a gimme? Is this supposed to be an easy one in your mind? Or is this a challenging one in your mind? Okay. It's a celebrity that I know.
Everyone in the world knows. So they are a reference to their name, and either through the picture itself, it maybe sounds like it. It's maybe in reference to something, but it will relate to their name specifically. I'm going to see if someone got it in the comments. Someone already did get it in the comments.
Ben Duck. Who's Ben Duck?
That's Peter.
Ben Quack.
No, Peter Parker's grandpa. He should have ducked.
Clock, quack. That's Big Ben.
All right.
And that's a duck.
Okay. Think.
And so other people have got it.
Well, at least one person. So this is what?
That's Big Ben. Duck.
Duck. Tell me when you want the celebrity. When you give up. We'll figure out timing and everything later, but I wanted to just try this game.
And other people are getting it in the chats right
now? Let's see. Yes. You're gonna really be mad at yourself.
I'm gonna be mad at you.
All right.
All right, give me the first one. Give it to me.
Ben.
Uh-huh.
Affleck. You can say what you want, but people got it pretty fast.
So much. Okay, Ben Affleck. I get it. Okay. Bring it.
So I've got now. This is the softball for you. I should have done this one first, but I forgot. So here.
Okay. Taylor Swift.
Easy. That's what I should have did first. Okay, you got it.
Okay.
You're good.
Yep.
Right. Here's the third one. I only have one more. So
okay.
Let's make this one. Let's make this one good content. All right, everyone. Here we go.
Okay.
Image 1.
Okay.
Image 2.
Dave Chihuahua.
Buster Small Dog? Pitcher for the Yankees?
Arcade game Mean Doggy?
I love that Fall Out Boy album.
Such a little mean dog.
I know, look how mad he is. I love this image so much. This was the very first thing I chose. Look how pissed he is.
I feel like Chihuahuas are exactly as unhinged as they are tiny. Like those two things, those two sliders are connected. I feel like, oh God,
Here. Okay.
Uh-huh. Like,
we do have someone that got it.
someone got it?
Yeah.
I don't like that I'm not getting it and someone else did.
I like this game. Okay.
Why am I?
Even your computer knows you're not focused right now. Come on, tighten up.
I don't know.
Time.
Can you? I don't understand. My brain just keeps going, Dave Chihuahua. What is it?
Basketball. Dave.
Uh-huh.
Growl. Dave. Growl. Dave Growl. Congratulations to Steve Nara got it. Steve Nara was the first one to get Dave Growl. I'm not giving anyone any points at all for Taylor Swift. That was the gimme. And then I believe 14 Wellington. Hi, 14.
Nice.
He was the first one to get Big Ben Cluck. That was him, John Ralphio, when he's like ending his rap. He's like, he tells time just like Big Ben Clock. You should have ended the rap at the good part.
End it on the rhyme. End it on the rhyme.
This game is impossible.
Right?
It's not. Hey, some people are getting it. So that is the game that is
like
new in the stable. You like this one?
Yeah, it's fun.
Okay.
I mean, I hated it because I lost 2 of them, but
tentatively titled "Guess Who Pictionary Jumble 'Em Up." We're gonna need a new name. So
yeah, that's all
you guys let me know what you want to call this game, and that's what we will call it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we have reached the part in our show where we are now getting ready to talk.
It's almost been an hour.
I know. Talk about the deep dive segment.
We need a producer so badly. Tighten it up, guys.
Is perfect into my next bit here.
Okay.
We appreciate you guys all being here. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Go to socialfandom.com. But to Autumn's point, we actually have a producer that has agreed to come on and not be paid. So we're very, very excited to have him. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you want to come on now, or we can just maybe next time.
Let him do it when he's ready.
Yes, but we have a new. We do have a producer whose first episode. His first episode will be the July 30th episode. Yeah. He comes from a long line of talent, so he's got a fam, and he dabbed. He's behind right now, and he's watching. And he dabbed. You've just lost the job. That would have worked 5 years ago. So, we're also so we're very excited. We're very grateful to him for helping out. He's watching how the show goes and watching this nonsense happen. Yeah. So,
and his job's going to be to keep us on track. So good luck.
So that this doesn't happen. So that so Big Ben Chihuahua Face doesn't happen, which is new band name I called it. But for people, no, it is not. It is not Alex.
It is not Alex. No one. You guys don't know him.
Nope. You guys don't know who he is, but he's incredibly, incredibly talented, and we're very, very lucky to have him. Yep. We got to make him sign a contract off, by the way.
Yeah. We'll have the producer set that up for us.
Anyways, all right. We have now come to the part of our show where we will go into our deep dive segment, which is supposed to be the bulk of this show, not this.
Whatever it is we do.
All right, so I guess where should we say it? Where should we start with this, Anonymous? Like what is the premise of this concept as a whole? Because it's broken up in two. Yeah. But I think we discussed, over text, like this premise. Yeah. Again, as a whole.
Well, I want to say when I use the word horror in the title, I use it very loosely. Like I wouldn't necessarily call what Hitchcock does horror, but I do think that I was struck by, how what Peele does is a very specific kind of horror film that he's been making. And while they're nowhere near similar to what Hitchcock did, there's a similarity in that they're both unique of their time. They're both doing something that's very different. And I feel they're both tapping into a specific kind of conversation and time period, like social period of time of their time, that I think that Hitchcock was successful in the era where he was, because the stories that we're telling were resonating with that era and that audience. And I think the same thing is true of Peele. So I thought it'd be interesting to look at each of them individually and have that conversation about why what they're doing is resonating with the time that they're making their films, with audiences of that time. And I think that, you did a lot of deep dive about Hitchcock, and, he's not a super great guy, but he definitely had a genre, and he
as with
tell a story.
As with anyone in hindsight, as with anyone in history, when you really start peeling back the curtain, you see that people are a lot more complicated than their art. And that is something that is so on display with Alfred Hitchcock, that I had to use several different books because there's various sources. So before we get into it, I just want to cite like the books that I had used aside from just other documentaries and YouTube clips, but I did actually use a couple of books that are online for free. I pulled PDFs from there just to fact check, like the story about Robert Walker, like that's in one of these books, just to make sure that that's all accurate. The first one being Alfred Hitchcock, A Life in Darkness and Light by Patrick McGilligan. That is a more, that's a more complimentative view of Alfred Hitchcock and his shortcomings. On the flip side of that, we have Alfred Hitchcock, The Dark Side of Genius by Donald Spoto. That one is a bit more, it's less forgiving of Alfred Hitchcock, especially since in that book, The Dark Side of Genius, Spoto actually does interview Tippi Hedren, who had a very tumultuous and complicated relationship with Alfred Hitchcock, and dare I say, sort of started pulling at the threads at Alfred Hitchcock's career. Obviously, it hasn't spoiled it, but anyway, that book's for that. And then Ripped from the Headlines by Harold Schechter, who's my favorite director. I use that book as my favorite writer. That book is more of a look at Alfred Hitchcock's movies and the true crime stories that inspired them. So, and then lastly was a documentary called How Alfred Hitchcock Became the Master of Suspense. Like, what's your documentary about, right? What's it about? It's in the title. And that's by Perspective Entertainment. I don't know much about them. I just found it on YouTube. So yeah, that's everything that I kind of used this week to just really put myself in a really weird headspace.
Yeah, I'm sure. I was in a weird headspace too. I did not read. I just did I watched a bunch of the movies. So I watched The Birds. I watched North by Northwest. I watched Vertigo. I watched Strangers on a Train. Rear Window. So, like we were saying in the Facebook group, a little paranoid now. Like everyone's out to get everyone else. I'm not a fan of, like, I don't watch a lot of horror films. It's not really my genre. And I wouldn't say this made me feel like I was watching something I didn't like. I mean, The Birds, I think, was the scariest. Birds was genuinely scary. Like, it was not scary. It was unnerving. It was just, and he definitely knew what he was doing. He knew how to, like, play the audiences like an instrument. So by the end of the film, what is
like a piano?
Yeah, and the end of the film really is just guy walks to car with some birds watching him, and other people get in that car and they drive away. No, it was the most intense, like that's what happened, but it's the most intense, terrifying, unnerving, unsettling. Like, man, he could really get under your skin and like freak you out. And putting those people in situations like Strangers on a Train and in Vertigo. Vertigo is a big, like, twisty, turny. Nobody there is a good guy. Everyone there is kind of awful, and just really interesting. But
yeah, so for those of you, I mean, it may exist. So it may exist out there who don't know who Alfred Hitchcock is. He was born in 1899. I think
crazy.
We forget that, like, how long ago that was.
Yeah.
And he died in 1980, again, being one of the most celebrated, imitated, and, complicated directors of the 20th century. It is hard to ignore that his influence is not all over popular culture, and it is not all in the media of cinema now. I think there are I was telling Autumn that there are three really big pillars that we can look at when looking at Alfred Hitchcock, and that is tension, isolation, and control. I believe that those 3 words specifically are the pillars to which his like professional career, his personal life, and his art really stood on, is tension, isolation, and control, which started from a very young age and led until his death. And you'll see when we start going through Vertigo, Rear Window, and North by Northwest how those movies all weave in and out of the idea of tension, isolation, and control. Just there are, I mean, so many, there's like so much to start with Alfred Hitchcock specifically, but I think we can start sort of what I've learned is like his, bless you.
Thank you.
Is his what we'll call glory days. Arguably, the 50s belonged to Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane to think of like the success that he had. Like so many of the movies within that 10-year run or 9-year run, if you're like a calendar snob, are so prevalent. But you know, me and Autumn were talking about how so many, right, of his, you know, again, tension, isolation, and control, so much of his life and his work just played with those. And Rear Window being the earliest of them in 1954. Again, it's about a wheelchair-bound press photographer, James. Do you
Jimmy
like
Stewart.
when you're calling him? You call him Jimmy Stewart, right?
It's Jimmy Stewart, yeah.
It felt too informal for me.
James.
I was like, I barely know.
Mr. Stewart.
Jim. I did grab some pictures just so everyone can see sort of like who we're referencing.
Yeah.
Where is he? Like, okay, we're here, right?
Yeah.
This is the can get it?
Yeah.
Pass. Where is he on the scale for you?
Oh. Yeah.
Can get it?
Yeah, he's talented. Always. Yeah. For sure. 100%. 100%.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Rear Window featuring, again, Jimmy Stewart, as well as...
Are we going to rate everyone like this from now on? I love it.
Yeah. As well as Grace Kelly.
Okay.
Beautiful icon.
So,
yeah, I mean...
Can't get it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, really, really interesting figure. I don't really know much about Grace Kelly, but to find like one thing that we'll learn again about Alfred Hitchcock, and I think it becomes incredibly prevalent at this point in his life, is control of that 3-pillar life, where he became obsessed. We were joking earlier that he loved the manic pixie dream girl.
Yeah.
But did you notice like they're all like beautiful dolls?
They're all blonde. Yep. And they're all
like, stoic.
And they're very like beautifully made, like always done up perfectly, and they look like you're saying, like stoic, and they are they're just like you said, like dolls. They look like statues. They're very perfect. Like he says control. When you say control, that's definitely he has these women who are very tightly controlled by themselves, by someone else. But you're right, there's nothing. And it's funny, for manic pixie dream girl is the opposite, but yet it's the same vibe. They are these,
exactly. I don't really know the phrase, but it plays that he is like Alfred Hitchcock. I felt like had this obsession with unreachable women.
Yeah, 100%.
in his movies, because he, you know, as described by every historian in every book, was like an unathletic, pudgy loner, is what they called him. And so these women who were beautiful were already unreachable, so his art just imitated that. Yeah. That they were cold and they were just you know, shove off the main lead of someone like Jimmy Stewart. Yeah.
And like Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart, and I can't remember some of the other actors, but yeah, it was the same thing. They're always these ice queen, these beautiful, perfect, very, very shoveled. Very shoveled women.
Very shoveled.
Yeah.
Not too shoveled, but just shoveled.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, this was a really interesting movie. I think I don't know where this, maybe we can talk about at the end about like where it rates of just these 3 movies of your favorites of the 3 that we watched.
Yeah.
But I felt this one was interesting. Also, it inspired the 2007 Shia LaBeouf movie Disturbia.
Did it really? I didn't know that.
Did you ever watch that?
No, I didn't know that. Okay.
Secret producer, did you watch that film?
Okay.
I think we probably watched it maybe at some point like around the same time. We're similar in age, but yeah, it's just again, it's like this influence where Shia LaBeouf is on house arrest, and this
Okay.
it's very similar in the premise. But
Okay.
how did you feel, Autumn, like when watching this? Like, what did you? I mean, this is like such a generic, hard question, but like, what did you think he was like saying about where he was in his life at that time through that movie?
I don't know. It was such a thing of being trapped and powerless, and the manipulations and the lies, and like not, and paranoid, and there's a feeling. It's just a feeling of powerlessness. I'm not having a voice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then of being played with. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I felt like it was a powerlessness thing. Do you have some notes there? Go ahead.
I took notes. So it was interesting that he even mentions in a couple of interviews about this film that the wheelchair that Jimmy Stewart is in is representative of the theater chair that we all sit in.
So fascinating.
It's a literal. It's not even a perfect metaphor. It is a direct nod that like he wants you to be as helpless as Jimmy Stewart feels in this movie, and even all the panning shots with the officer who is like standing over him, and he's like, he is not. He is. Let me tell you, he is not Jimmy Stewart. But he sure thinks he's the cat's pajamas. But it's because he's standing over Jimmy Stewart, and he's just got this level of control, and you almost feel like in all of these films, and we'll get into. I don't want to maybe show our hand too quick, but like when me and Autumn went into this, I think me and you and Autumn, please correct me if I'm wrong. We're looking for like this was happening in the world,
right?
This is what Alfred Hitchcock has to say about
it, and we were
that's
wrong.
Not necessarily what he did, right?
No. Yeah, I was interested because I really thought, looking back, and I'd only seen a few of his films. I'd seen Psycho and I'd seen Rear Window once, and I think that was basically it. So I really thought that he was more a product of his time, meaning commenting on his time, but he really wasn't. He was very self-obsessed and he was all about himself and what he was going through, and like you're saying, control and some chaos. His controlled chaos, and that he really didn't give a crap about what was going on in the world.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was interesting, and I'm curious for everyone out there. This is just a question. Like, if you've watched any of these films, Rear Window, North by Northwest, or
Psycho, or Vertigo.
Vertigo. Like, are they like? Do you feel that they are like isolated films, or do you feel, as I feel, as maybe I'm just watching these a lot now, but they're all part of this like Hitchcock verse?
Yeah, I can feel that. He reminds me of the Whedon verse as well. Like Buffy and Angel, yes, are in the same universe. Literally, it's one's a spin-off of the other. But then Firefly and Serenity, and he also has the same kind of worship, untouchable, punishment kind of relationship with his main character females. When I say punishment, like meaning like they were beautiful and untouchable, and so in the stories they got punished. You know what I mean? They were also
interesting.
And it's the same idea of like he could not attain those women, he felt, and because of who he was not like Hitchcock. He viewed himself as not good at attracting the opposite sex, and so he cast these beautiful, athletic, brilliant, wonderful actresses, and in their roles, the characters that he wrote, they were always punished. And it's an interesting.
That's a really interesting correlation.
And so that's what kind of made me think when I was watching all these films. It started making me think of the Whedon films and the Whedon approach to how he told his stories. Who I also think Joss Whedon's completely brilliant in what he created and super problematic as a human being, but it's the same kind of thing.
I did not realize before we did the show that Joss Whedon's a pretty good modern day avatar for Alfred Hitchcock.
He really is. The more we've been talking, because I've done a lot of studying about the Whedon properties. I don't know if anyone doesn't know, but like I used to be involved in a convention all about that. I ran a website, a blog, I've taught classes, all that. So I've spent a lot of deep dive time into the worlds that Joss Whedon has created and his approach. And I did see so many similarities when I was watching all these films back to back like that. It was interesting. And I also had commented to Paul that I felt like, you know, his audience that made him so famous was, you know, white middle class America. And to white middle class America in that era where there was a lot of abundance and growth and opportunity for white middle class America, the idea of these murders and these scandals and these plot twists was titillating because they didn't actually have anything to fear in their actual real life. They didn't actually have to worry about getting murdered or getting trapped or getting persecuted or, you know, all of the things, going to, you know, being sent to jail for something you didn't do, and all those that's so foreign that it was a fantasy. And so it was a very privileged audience, very privileged stories, very privileged point of view. And that struck me as like why he was so fascinated with why he's so famous. Why did they love these things so much? Like, he was a good storyteller, but in that era, that would be titillating and exciting because you don't actually have danger in your life. When
it allows you to walk to the edge, right? Without jumping.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a very safe way to feel dangerous and living on your, because that's a theme of, like, in Mad Men, that TV show, in that era of time, people felt like that white middle class America, they were thriving, they were affluent, they were doing so well, and man, there was a lot of people that were craving some type of struggle or some type of edge or some type of real experience that wasn't so curated, because their lives were curated so carefully and everybody had such a facade about them. So I think this tapped into that, and I think Mad Men told that story really well, and I just was interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a good comparison to like the modern true crime boom.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, to be clear, we as humans have always loved true crime.
Yeah.
It's just there's more for us to consume now.
Yeah.
There's more. So just to be clear, it's not like, why true crime now? It's always existed. We've always been weirdos and freaks about true crime. But I just think now we just have access to so much of it. And before, you'd have to wait for different things to come out, huge stories. And so many of Alfred Hitchcock's movies also play. He was a huge true crime nerd, massive. And so it played into that as well. But like, as someone who has a ton of books up here, books in my room on true crime, it allows you to sort of like get into these darker corners of the world, but like from a very safe place.
Yeah.
And it's like almost like an unearned place. Like, I totally get why, in a very microscopic scale, why those movies were so appealing to people during that time for Hitchcock. Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, that movie, again, Rear Window, you know, one of the things, you know, it does just play into this idea of voyeurism, and it allows you to really deeply connect with the audience, which is something that, like, I feel like is so personal with Alfred Hitchcock. I think after watching all these films, I don't know about you, Autumn, but like, it definitely feels more personal with Alfred Hitchcock. And I think like more movies like today, we don't really see a lot. Maybe like Wes Anderson, maybe Quentin Tarantino's earlier stuff, but like
far between. And he puts himself in the movies literally.
Like literally in the movies.
He's literally, not only is he putting his whole self in the movies, but he's also always put himself in the film as a cameo somewhere. Really short.
It is what inspired Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went on record in saying there was I didn't write it down, but there was this like book-long interview with Alfred Hitchcock by this interviewer, and essentially this book came out, and then a documentary came out about the book. And in the documentary, you've got like Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino, all these huge directors talking about how influential that was to kind of get into Alfred Hitchcock's brain. And Quentin Tarantino talks in that book that he's like, oh, that directly inspired me. He's like, I could do that. That would be really fun. Like, Quentin Tarantino, problematic in the roles he chose to put himself in. You know, Hitchcock was a little bit more, nail on, but still incredibly interesting. And again, that movie is just it's standing up on one of the major pillars of Alfred Hitchcock's life of isolation. Like, he just really views himself as that isolated person watching. And I think that Alfred Hitchcock made this movie as like a unfortunate tip of the cap, because he is in that character. I think he's Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
And he's watching into all these people's lives. And there was a line in there where he says, well, if their window's open, I can look in and they can look in as well. I think that line is pretty prevalent. Now, Alfred Hitchcock didn't write a lot of his movies, but I felt like that was prevalent to him because he felt very similar. By the time you get to this movie, right, we're in 1954 at this time. He is right there on like stardom. He is still very, distinguished, but in 1955 when he starts the show, he which is the Alfred Hitchcock Hour, he becomes a global celebrity.
Right.
So he moves from director to global celebrity, and I think it was like that movie's like a commentary of saying like of Alfred Hitchcock at the audience saying like, so it's okay for you guys to peer into, because he's obviously had a problematic life as well, to peer into every aspect of my life, but it's a one-way street. Like I can't look into your life, but you're allowed to look into every window of my life.
Yeah.
And it's just stuff like that when I really started getting deep into we're close now, but I call him Hitch. When you start looking at Hitch's life, which the Will Smith movie is actually loosely based off of it.
Yeah, because he was big into matchmaking, I hear. Yeah.
He sure was. And probably even Hernandez, if he could have. But he was very, very, like, he just loved meta commentary on these movies. And I think that's what like Rear Window was. And also it's just a great film, honestly. Like
I'm interested to see the contrast of how Jordan Peele, his stories are also, I feel, I haven't seen all of them. Like what I've seen, I love, but I have not seen all of them. I'm really excited about the homework to get ready for this next one, to watch all these. But his feels personal, but also not isolated to just his personal experience.
Yes, very, very, very true. Yeah, agreed.
Where I don't think Hitchcock does not care about tapping into other people's experiences. He's expressing his own.
Yeah, I mean, and it plays into Alfred. I mean, just look at the differences between them, and we don't want to go too much into Jordan Peele now, but like Jordan Peele was already a celebrity by the time he became a director.
Right.
Where Alfred Hitchcock is always this person trying to get people to understand him, and he just always wants to be the smartest person in the room. Like he just always wanted to be the most interesting. He wasn't interested in friends. He's even like his daughter's gone on record saying like they think he may have been like asexual, essentially. Like these normal things just didn't interest him. He just wanted to make his art, and he just wanted to have people like him and appreciate his work. And
it's interesting that the themes didn't change as much over time, because you'd think over time as he becomes popular, it shows how it's a bottomless pit. There was no amount of fame that he was going to get that was going to make him feel satisfied, which is why he's going to continue to paint the women in these roles of this unattainable, beautiful ice queen. And he's going to continue to make his main character be punished for these things. And even when he himself has overcome whatever imaginary demons, all of these, like, making people like him. Well, if you're hugely famous and successful, then you have achieved that. So maybe calm down, but it shows that it's not
maybe relax a little bit.
Like you're good, but it shows that like those types of things can never be filled externally, and so he's just forever on this quest to fill that hole that can't be filled.
So after that movie, he has a couple of other films, and we get obviously into the Alfred Hitchcock Hour, which ran for 10 or 13 years.
Long time.
It ran for a long time, and there was like something like 300 plus episodes. He only directed 20 of those, which I felt was weird.
So it was more because like he just kind of was a showrunner but didn't really direct them.
No, not even that. He just kind of came in and did his little bits, like he did that thing, and then he just left.
So he literally presented it. He literally Alfred Hitchcock presents. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm curious for everyone, like, have you ever watched a lot of the Alfred Hitchcock Hour? I didn't really get into it. Like, I watched maybe a couple episodes, and I actually like a compilation of some of his intros, but like I didn't really watch it. Like, I don't really know a lot of what it's about, and apparently it's not too much. Like, if you like Alfred Hitchcock's movies, it's not really the show for you because he didn't direct any of it.
Right. It was just the same genre. He was like, now that's what I call music.
Mm-hmm.
Other people made them, and he just collaborated. He just put them together and presented them.
Yeah, I mean, it's so before we move on to the next movie, which is arguably the most prominent movie, I'm kind of going in chronological order here by like year. You know, I want to let's see what people are saying. You can move from private chat, by the way. The game's over.
Okay.
So you can go into the comments now. So 14 Wellington is talking about being stabbed. So that's what's going on in the comments.
Oh, there was a whole conversation about he had said, have you ever test stabbed various types of melons to get the right sound to imitate the real thing? And then he said, how did Hitchcock know what stabbing someone really sounded like anyway? So yeah, those are conversations about stabbings that were happening. So we're cool.
I don't want to slander this, but like, do you think he ever murdered someone? I want to cause slander. I know. By Big Hitchcock.
I think no. I think if he did, he has too much of an ego. He would have to have let it slip somehow. He would want credit for it. If he was the kind of person to actually murder, then he's also the kind of person who would have wanted credit for it. He would have wanted the fame for doing it.
He's a real Sharpay.
Yes. Yeah. I love it. Now that's what I call Hitchcockian. And the fact that you just made a High School Musical reference, I love it.
We've been friends for a very long time.
Yeah.
Tenchi Masaki says, I have. It's very, Tenchi Masaki referencing that he has seen the show. I have. It's very much like an anthology series in that some episodes are good and some aren't because they are done by a wide range of people / writers.
Yeah.
Again, very like similar to like a Twilight Zone, right?
Yeah.
Like,
which
Twilight Zone.
I loved. Yeah. That I watched a lot of. But
yeah. I've seen a couple episodes, but all my experience with Twilight Zone is the now pouring out for it. Guardians of the Galaxy. What is it? The Tower of Terror. That's all my Twilight Zone experience.
Okay, we're gonna have to put some Twilight Zone on one of our future episodes so we can watch a bunch of it. It'll be fun. That can be a watch, read, listen sometime. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That'd be fun. Yeah, Backpack Jack says it's Twilight Zone with suspense instead.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Sci-fi. And speaking of suspense, moving into arguably not only Alfred Hitchcock's most prominent movie, but argued by some as one of the best that he's ever done. Vertigo, released in 1958.
This was a story.
This was I'd never seen it before this.
I hadn't either.
Okay, so how much of like this, because this is one of those movies that's like Goodfellas, right? It's up there where like everyone kind of knows what's happening. I watched it and I was like, I realized how absolute little I knew about this movie.
Yeah. I didn't know. I literally thought it was something. I didn't know what to expect, really. And then when I was watching it, the whole idea of vertigo, of him, being afraid of heights, being brought on by, a traumatic event, it didn't come into play often during the film.
Right.
But when it did, it was pivotal. But it was it was big with the twists and turns. And and Jimmy Stewart is always in all his films. He's always like this all-American hero. You know what I mean? He's the Tom Hanks of his time. You know what I mean? Like, everyone loves to love him, and he's always the hero, and he's always just like, the upper standard of what it is to be a man. And man, they made him obsessive and weak. And then when he when he sees the girl that he is,
Kim Novak.
Yeah, and she's Judy or something when.
She's Judy and someone else.
When he sees her as Judy, and in his mind, she looks a lot like the woman that he loves that died. He doesn't know that it really is her at first, but man, he gets dark and twisted and terrible, forcing her to, like, if she was someone else, what he did was awful, absolutely awful, and like controlling her and manipulating her and forcing her to be what he wants her to be. And we know later on, it really is her, and his mind is trying to figure out that puzzle. But I was like, that was interesting. They made him go real dark, and like he was horrible. He was really, really horrible. It was interesting.
Yeah, it was. It really was like a super dark film, and I think I watched this one first, so I hadn't done or I haven't watched too much Hitchcock. But watching this and then AJ.
Oh, AJ said I dissected this film in college film studies class when I was trying to become a director. Yeah, this is a good one to dissect for that. Oh my gosh, yes.
So AJ, I'll ask this to you, and then this will be for Autumn and everyone out there. Like, where does this rank? I feel not like in his films or anything, but like, how impactful would you say, AJ, that this was? I know we're going to get like a wall of text from him. He's just going to copy and paste his thesis paper over.
Yeah, like a little bit at a time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too because I said how like horrible he was to her, but she's also horrible. She knowingly participated in a murder. Like it wasn't like she was duped or taking advantage of. She participated. She was an accessory to murder, so she's actually also terrible.
But I think, like, again, going back to the ideals that we sort of, again, set forward with this of tension, isolation, control, like, I think this movie is one of the best because it really, really encapsulates, like, all of them. Like, the tension of, just, like, I think once you find out, the spoilers, again, for this movie, that's, I know it just came out. We usually have a 2-week warning, but once you find out that she is in fact like alive and who she is, it's just like immediately that tension starts with their relationship and how long until she finds out. Will she ever find out? Is she gonna leave him? She's not gonna leave him. And then the real world, like, I think the control dynamic is it's turned up to 11 here for Hitchcock. Like, what we later find out with like Tippi Hedren and the birds and everything about like how Jimmy Stewart in this movie wants to literally control Kim Novak and her hair, the way she dresses, even when she like comes in and she dyes her hair blonde.
Yeah.
Right, for this guy, and then he comes in and doesn't say anything. He just says like, your hair's wrong. It should be pinned up to the back. It should be off your shoulders.
Off your face, and
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is, we never do know who this woman is because when he meets her, she's playing the role of this person's wife in order to help set up the story that needs to be played out. And then when she meets him again, she's playing the role of Judy. Is she really Judy? Is that really who she is? Or is that another role? Is that her witness protection program? We never actually know. And so like when he's falling in love with her, when she's falling in love with him, that's another mystery. Is like, who is he falling in love with exactly? Because we never actually get to know anything about her. I mean, unless I'm wrong and Judy is actually who she was. Maybe AJ can weigh in on this as well. Like, was she actually Judy that played the role of this wife and dyed her hair blonde in order to play the role of that guy's wife, and that's just a character for her? Or was Judy a character? And like, who was this woman? And did Alfred Hitchcock in his story, did he care? I kind of think he didn't care. Like, it was interesting that she was just a tool, not only for the characters, but for Hitchcock himself. She wasn't. Was it that she didn't care who she was, or like, it was interesting. We never did find out who this woman was.
Right, and spoilers. It ends up with her.
Which was
fallen. Which, if I'm correct, right, the movie. Yeah, after she falls and like is done, I'm like, yeah, you're right. A lot of Alfred Hitchcock's movies could have been solved with a cell phone or a railing. Once she falls, like, the movie ends.
Yeah, it's over.
Like, immediately.
And Backpack Jack says, didn't he run into Judy accidentally? Theoretically, yes, but I very firmly believe that she planted herself, or she put herself in that position. I want to go back and watch it, but was she taken by surprise? Was it a coincidence? If so, that movie relied a little too much on coincidence, because also her falling was like, oh, that nun just happened to go up right at the moment where she was standing right there near that edge. Like, come on. It was a little.
Well, and then also, I want to speak to a couple of points AJ's making here.
Like,
exactly. So, Exactly. It just spirals. It just goes round and round, like
Okay,
who
so
she
AJ
was when they
Arusa is
met.
saying, who was who? And it's a never-ending spiral. It keeps going back and forth because who is the real person on both sides? That's true.
Mm-hmm. And Jen Edwards' comment about she was having an affair with the man whose wife was murdered, which I thought that was interesting because once, we sort of get into the final act, right, where he starts like controlling her, like he's non-existent, really.
Yeah.
This guy who set up all of this stuff, right? Like, sure, they were having an affair, and unless maybe I just misinterpreted that, but it sort of seemed like he just wanted his wife dead.
Yeah, he just wanted his wife dead because because in the beginning he was talking about how he was running the family business and like something to do and get her money, but like he didn't want to run the business. It was boring. He didn't enjoy it. He just wanted her dead. He could just have the money and travel around the world without anybody judging him for not working and not running the business and not contributing. Then he can just sell it all off and just be rich. So yeah, he's just a douche that wanted all her money. That's all. But he was very clever about
the official Fandom social review. He was just a dude who wanted money.
Yeah.
You gotta be more specific of what movie we're talking about. AJ earlier had said about this and about where it ranks, and how important it is for Hitch and his films. He says, honestly, I think it's one of his top films, if not number one, because even the title is a reference on itself. Psycho gets a lot of attention, but this or North by Northwest are his best, in my opinion.
I liked North by Northwest too, because Cary Grant is also another like Jimmy Stewart, where he's always held up to this really high pillar in films. Like he's always this Ultraman. By the way,
look at him.
The scale is up here.
Very James Bond before James Bond.
And the thing is, he's always so composed in all the films. And in North by Northwest, for the first time, when they're grabbing him and pulling him away, you see him get scared. You see him lose control, lose composure, and you don't see Cary Grant losing composure. You'd see him in films get angry, or see him get in a funny way, get flustered and upset and angry. But to see him scared, you don't see that a lot. And so that was really interesting to see him play a role like that.
And and so starring alongside him in that movie was the relatively at that point unknown Eva Marie Saint, who she was great. I just felt in this movie, I really felt Hitchcock and his perspective on women in his films, which becomes more evident much later. And then once you dissect it further, you see sort of again how he sidelines his female characters. And I felt like it's not as prevalent to me, at least in Vertigo and Rear Window, but in this one it is. But North by Northwest, again, the iconic crop duster scene, you guys may have seen that 1,000 times, but this one I felt was interesting, and it was a huge success because it was way lighter than Vertigo. Much lighter, much more even the scenery, even where all the movie takes place, is much more open. I felt like that was
Backpack Jack. Okay, I've seen almost everything that he's ever been in, so I agree with you. In a comedy, I have seen him get scared or seen him, but it's more for comedy. It's more, it's cartoonish the way he gets scared in those.
Right.
But to see him literally look like he's afraid for his life, to be genuinely scared, is not something that you see that character go through often. Because they would do it in the comedies for laughs, but it was still a little composed. It was still a little contrived. So I stand by it.
Yeah. I'd say North by Northwest is I was also playing this game in my head of which of these movies, if they were released now, would probably be received the most, the best, I should say. I feel like North by Northwest would be the biggest blockbuster that he would have.
Yeah,
hands down. And I think.
Oh no, you're frozen. Okay.
Am I back?
Back? Okay, yep, you're back.
Okay.
You're back.
I'm actually just freezing periodically, just to mess with you.
For suspense, yeah. All right, let's move on to our third film.
Yeah, so third film being, again, North by Northwest, released in 1959, again with Cary Grant, Eva Marie Saint. Again, a much lighter take on Hitchcock's films. He's just done Vertigo, Suspicion, all these other films with Cary Grant. It was an interesting. again, in this movie, it's more prevalent to me, like the Hitchcock ideals and the things of, again, we talk about the control, the isolation, and all of that, but also his treatment of his male characters, right? Because again, at this point, it's I wouldn't bring it up if I didn't feel like it was relevant to the story. But at this point, Alfred Hitchcock was struggling with his health. He was 5'5", over 300 pounds. He was not very healthy. His family was telling him he wasn't healthy. And so he continuously casted these very broad-shouldered, strong-jawed men and made them weak in the presence of these incredibly beautiful and elusive women.
Did you notice the theme of he's casting beautiful, perfect people and punishing them? Like, it's the same thing. He doesn't have a lot of like everyman characters in his films. He has these, beautiful, perfect models of people that then he puts through, he torments. You know what I mean? Like the ones who get it, the ones who go through the worst struggles in his films are the beautiful people, not the average ones. So
honestly, we have it really hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's what it is, So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, he does take these men, like you're saying, and put them in these situations where they are, some way suffering because of these women.
Yeah, again with Jimmy Stewart twice. Once he's in a wheelchair in Rear Window. He has vertigo in Vertigo, and Cary Grant in this film is like this fast talking, again, James Bond avatar. Like that's what he is. He's James Bond. So, I mean, I know he was before. It's maybe the disservice to call him that, but that's who he is. He is James Bond. And putting him in this place where, like, he just doesn't know. And it was just so, once you step out of the film and you look at what was happening, like, behind the scenes, like, Cary Grant hated this film. He was ready to drop out. Yeah, in the first, which was it? In A Life in Darkness and Light by Patrick McGilligan, he talks about, like, the set and how essentially Alfred Hitchcock also had an incredibly, I couldn't imagine, difficult way of filming, where he shot and was like, that's it, that's the take we're using. And the editors were essentially just tasked with putting the movie together, not editing it.
Because he did not want anyone else's story being told but his.
Exactly. And he's like, I know. He's like, if I wanted someone else's input, I would have hired you for input, but it's my movie.
You're an edit monkey.
Exactly. Edit monkey.
Edit monkey.
And he's just, it's very interesting to see so much of that. And so with his writers, he's famously gone on record, one of, I think, his most prevalent scandals of saying, like, oh, actors should be treated like cattle. So he went on record saying, like, someone on set had heard him saying that, and then he went on, essentially, which is the equivalent of the time of, like, the Ed Sullivan Show.
Yeah.
And he said, like, did you say that actors are cattle? And he's like, no, this has gone blown out of proportion. I said actors should be treated like cattle because that's what they are. He's like, we use them, they go back to where there's shade, we feed them, we use them.
Yeah.
And, like, that's what he doubled down on.
Yes.
And, like, that was who he was. But people worked with him. They moved heaven and earth to be able to work on an Alfred Hitchcock, piece.
Jen Edwards says Cary Grant was also disturbed by the huge age difference between him and Ava Marie Saint, 48 and 21. And I noticed that again as well in Vertigo. Jimmy Stewart, his character was supposed to have gone to college with his friend. They're very clearly at least 20 years age difference. And like,
that is a grown man.
Yeah, I was like, did you go to college when you were 38? So and all the love interests were much, much younger than the male counterparts. Yeah, the women were. Yeah, in everything I saw. Yeah.
And again, it's just a perfect representation of how Hitch saw himself and how he put himself in these movies and what he could be. And he was literally a voyeur, like, his whole life. I mean, to every sense of the word, that he wanted to, like you said, Autumn, watch these beautiful people in ways that he set up. Like, it was, again, control is maybe the most important word when really looking at the life of Alfred Hitchcock, because infected like every part of his life. And on the set of North by Northwest, Cary Grant was given the script page by page every day. So he wasn't allowed to see the entire thing. And so he was incredibly frustrated. He said this is going to be a failure of a film.
Wow.
And Hitchcock doubled down on it. At this point, he wasn't really talking to a lot of his actors because he was doing this and then he was already maybe filming the Alfred Hitchcock Hour, whatever.
Right.
But
plus
Cary Grant didn't understand.
Yeah.
He didn't understand until the very end of the movie. Then obviously it became a blockbuster. I believe Vertigo was the last nomination. Also, do you know Alfred Hitchcock never won an Oscar for Best Director?
I didn't know that.
He never won, and I think that was like something that he was like. He always probably. I feel like, again, this is all speculation, that he was not chasing that. He's like, I don't want the accolades, but he loved it. Like he loved the attention.
Yeah.
And I think he did just always want it. And so with Cary Grant this time being, this massive celebrity, like it's again just more control, being like, no, you get one page by one page.
Yeah, so much control. That's such a control movie.
Right?
Like you don't need to know what the story's about. It's none of your business. Just act. Yeah.
That is exactly how we will be treating our new producer when he starts July 30th, which is our next show. Everyone.
Yep.
Quick plug. Like, comment, subscribe to the notification bell. Autumn actually already built out the YouTube link for that.
So I'll drop the link for that. And the next episode's on July 30th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We will be discussing Jordan Peele and his films. We're going to be watching. So we talked about the watch, read, listen, but the films we're going to watch, if you want to watch along and kind of get ready, we're going to watch Get Out, which I've already seen, but I'll happily watch again. Nope. Us, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
We can watch those three films because we can focus on those three because we focus on three for Hitchcock.
Yeah. Try and focus on those.
But it's in sort of like in summation again, with Hitchcock being one of the most celebrated, imitated, and beloved, people of horror and suspense, like. He is a good part one for this because he is exactly everything. I don't want to use this word too strongly, but he's kind of like the antithesis of what Jordan Peele does with his movies.
Yeah.
I feel like in this, now that I've just spent so much time and I've gotten all this word vomit out on Alfred Hitchcock, I can say I feel like Alfred Hitchcock had no interest in bringing in changing the world with his films. I think he wanted to bring the world into his films and make everyone understand. And as we will see with Jordan Peele when we kind of go into him, it's the opposite. Yeah. And that's Alfred Hitchcock. That's part one.
Love it. That was honestly, I'm so excited that we decided to do this. I'm looking forward to coming up with more of these kinds of concepts. We're going to deep dive on a particular creator or a particular artist because that was really fun. I really enjoyed this whole week of deep diving on one person's artwork. So
yeah, I mean, let us know, everyone. Like, what did you think? I know we're an hour and 40 minutes in. Autumn has said multiple times, and I think we can just because if we say this out loud, Autumn, we're forced to do it. Yeah. We will eventually have to start splitting these shows up.
Yeah. What do you guys think? I mean, the Explorathon I have been talking about, I think should be its own episodes, that we just do a deep dive episode and we do a different episode completely where we're just doing our club, our watch, read, listen club. But, it's hard enough for us to get one show every 2 weeks. So getting two might be a stretch. But then again, the watch, I don't know. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Do you guys like it all in one show like this, or would you guys want to see it split up eventually? Curious to hear your thoughts. All right, so...
It's like the idea of multiple streaming services. Like, do you want it as just Max, or do you prefer HBO Max?
I'm so confused by that whole thing, but okay. I'm like, do I have it or not? That's all I need to know.
Where can I watch Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives?
That's all I need to know. Please. All right, you guys. Well, if you're going to be at San Diego Comic-Con, maybe I'll see you there. Otherwise, if you're going to be in Hawaii, you might see Paul there. But otherwise, we will see you guys in 3 weeks. Go do your Jordan Peele homework, your watch, read, listen. And looks like, yeah, I think we're good.
I think we're wrapping up, everyone. So
think
thank
we
you
are.
so much. Have a wonderful week. We'll be in the group. We'll be hanging out. Like, comment, subscribe, follow us pretty much everywhere. The Facebook group where we are the most active, and you all are the most active, is Fandom Socialites. Thank you guys all for participating in there. And again, you can find us everywhere at Fandom Social, Twitter. We have a Facebook page. We have an Instagram.
We have an email.
We have our YouTubes. We do.
Yeah, we have an email. hello@fandomsocial.com. And eventually we'll get all these things. Like the blog post is behind. There's not really a lot of posts on some of our social, but we'll get there. We'll get there. You guys are the early adopters, so congratulations.
Yeah, and I'm working on the Wi-Fi.
Sure.
I don't know what happened. It hasn't been a problem before.
No, it hasn't.
I think I just need to maybe set my router on fire. Luckily, our new producer is also an incredibly tech savvy person, so
nice.
We've just got work for him coming out the wazoo there. So thank you so much, everyone. Right. Have a wonderful Sunday. Watch, read, listen what you love, and we'll see you in a bit. Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye.